Back on TYT Sports, found a fantastic article from CBS Sports, so I'd like to thank writer Ananth Pandian for putting this together. It's a headline that regards the NBA sophomores who are prone to break out in 2016-2017. Includes some names that you think will be very familiar.
Karl-Anthony Towns?
No, does not.
I think I said that just because.
Because he left. They left out guys like Porzingis and Towns because they've already broken out.
They've already broke through.
And they did add some guys who really broke out in the second half of the season, but we'll see if there will be any sophomore slump. However, I think there's three different guys for three very different reasons will have great sophomore seasons and can become instrumental parts of their team's success, even though two of these guys play on teams that might miss the playoffs. First, right on top of the list, understandably so, is Devin Booker. After Eric Bledsoe and the rest of the Phoenix Suns backcourt went down last season, about halfway through, Booker's minutes saw an increase. And not just Booker's minutes saw an increase, Booker's points per game went through the roof. Now, his shooting percentage dropped off, but that's probably because he was going from 15.5 minutes per game as a rookie to like 37 minutes per game. But he was still turning those into points. Especially from deep, especially from the mid-range, off the elbow, on the baseline jumper. He was finding space on his own, on a team that's not that great at finding space in the first place in Devin Booker. Francis, I got numbers for you. It started around the 55th game of the season when I was going through his game log on Sports Reference, right? He had 34 points at Miami. And then 4 of the 5 next games, he scored 25-plus points, almost all of which on the road, against the Magic, against the Knicks. So on top of just breaking out, he's doing it in other people's buildings. Mm-hmm. That's what I found so interesting. He wasn't afraid to step up when the crowd doesn't want you to step up, even though the Phoenix Suns are not a team that traditionally brings in a big audience from even teams you're playing. The tickets are a little bit cheaper. It's different from the Nash Stoudemire era. And on top of that, his March was phenomenal towards the end of the year. 22.5 points per game in March. He was strictly a scorer, but we're in a scoring league. He's perfect in terms of a player that's going to transition the Suns hopefully into more of a shooting team. Yeah. You need shooters on your team. And now that they figure out with healthier players in their backcourt, they can still run a smaller lineup, including Devin Booker. And you never know with guys like Bledsoe and they're so injury prone. Booker didn't seem injury prone, at least as a youngster, so hopefully as he develops, Suns get better.
You attach those numbers onto someone who is maybe more expected to deliver those sort of numbers week in, week out, maybe an Andrew Wiggins, maybe put them even on a
he
player
was on
like
par with Wiggins points in March, yeah.
Maybe even put him on, give those numbers over to a Ben Simmons this year or a Brandon Ingram, and everyone's like, oh my God, they're the next big thing. They're coming through the ranks, they're going to go on to greatness. So I think it's a testament to Booker that he's able to contribute these numbers and kind of fly under the radar. I think it kind of, because he doesn't have the same sort of level of expectancy that the bigger names had coming into the NBA. When you come in the same division as a Karl-Anthony Towns, and Porzingis is what he was able to do, you often get lost in the pack because these guys, as big as they are in stature, they're contributing so much so that people are already tipping them to go forward and become potential NBA All-Stars, as we see. So, I'm encouraged by this. I'm not encouraged by the Phoenix Suns in general. I think that they need more work as a team. I remember they were a team that I used to love back in the day. But I think you put up numbers like that, if you continue to do that throughout this season, you're going to attract some interest, especially if he doesn't decide to stick with the Suns going forward, because a player that can contribute to a lot of teams.
It depends. If he starts, at year 3, year 4, rookie contract starts to expire, he's shooting and scoring that much. That could be a very optimal free agency piece coming down the line in a time when guys like Kevin Durant will be a free agent again at that time. All right, so the next one, I'm going to skip over D'Angelo Russell because I think D'Angelo Russell gets covered more than enough, and people understand that at this point, as they should, that D'Angelo Russell was not a player coming out of Ohio State who is an immediate impact guy. Yeah. And even though he flashed all the brilliance in Summer League and will come back better as a sophomore, this is a guy who's prone to break out in his 3rd season, not his 2nd. He will get the time this year under Luke Walton, which is very important. Byron Scott is not handcuffing him to the bench, so the Kobe tour and whatever reasons that Byron Scott didn't want to give D'Angelo Russell time to develop as a rookie definitely hinged his progress a little bit. So There should be some more growing pains. It's a very young team with Ingram in there, and probably Luol Deng starting over him. But in Luke Walton's new offense, look for D'Angelo Russell to really break out as a much better numbers guy in his third year.
You'll get this. You'll get that orange thing with the black lines through it. Like you'll get that. You'll get it to use.
Oh,
You'll
the basketball.
Get the ball.
The basketball.
Right.
The rock.
He might get it to use it, and then we can kind of see if he can go forward.
The orange thing.
The orange thing with the black.
With black lines.
That goes through it.
Before I get to my favorite at the end, which is, of course, Chief Justice Winslow, who never gets enough coverage, I have to talk about the other guy who's going to break out and be an instrumentally important part to the Pacers' success. That is Myles Turner, and that is because of his defensive ability and the numbers that he was putting up towards the end of the year. Some injury worries slightly, but I think that he'll overcome those as he gets an NBA-ready body because, for one, he's 20 years old. He's a baby. He's a baby. He's 5 years younger than me.
6 years younger than me.
That creeps me out a little bit, right? But he's so versatile. For one, he can play the 4 or the 5. Come on. You need versatile big men in this NBA.
You need versatility in a team that relies so much so on an all-star scorer.
Absolutely. And in terms of Turner's versatility, here's a guy who secretly can knock down the elbow jumper. I watched back tape of Myles Turner this morning. I did not know or realize all that well that what is Myles Turner? Oh, wow, he's got a consistently good elbow jump shot. Not just that, though. His post-game footwork needed a little bit of work. Last season, in the beginning, we kind of thought like he looks a little spastic on the floor. And then halfway through the season, his last 30 games, we were like, oh, this guy's transitioning, especially on the defensive end, especially as a rim protector. So you have a versatile 4-5 to pair with Paul George and an offense that's going to be run by Jeff Teague, who ran a complicated but successful offense on the Hawks. You better believe the Pacers are going to be a force this year. There's a lot of things that have to fall into place. Teague gets the offense. George limits some of his turnovers at the small forward position, but still scores at will. And Myles Turner develops into a good big man, a great defensive big man. In a breakout season, you better believe the Pacers are going to be a top 3 seed if those things fall into place, and a force to be reckoned with in the NBA once again, especially the Eastern Conference. Justice Winslow is the last one. Why Justice Winslow? He's working on his jumper. A guy who shot above 40% from both three-point land, actually above 41.8% from three-point land and 45% at Duke. Dropped those atrociously when the three-point line was set a little bit back in his rookie years in the NBA. No Dwayne Wade. I know you're a Heat fan. No Dwayne Wade.
No D-Wade.
Chris Bosh looks back, but we don't know if Chris
yet.
Bosh could ever stay on the court for 82 games, and even the interest of the NBA possibly intervening on Chris Bosh's decision to be back. So there's interesting parts of that as well. But Justice Winslow, again, never look at Justice Winslow as scorer. If you're expecting this guy to ever put up 20 points a game in his career, it's likely not going to happen. What you do have to realize is as a role player, he has an NBA masterminded defensive wing special ability. And I can promise you, if the Heat are rebuilding and Bosh isn't a part of this rebuild anymore down the road and they have Justice Winslow and Hassan Whiteside and they can pick up scores along the way, you better believe Justice Winslow is going to be a lockdown defender. He is almost as good as Kawhi Leonard in transition defense as he was in Kawhi's third year. When Kawhi started to break out, during the NBA Finals runs and all that, you start watching this guy with these enormous hands and wingspan out the wazoo, right?
Right.
Right. Justice Winslow has that ability, and he's got the NBA-ready body. So I'm just going to keep my arms out like this.
That's who he's comparison. That's whenever we talked about Winslow, that's who you compare him to. Is that as far as you can get? You know Michael Phelps. You know Michael Phelps.
Did you see the great video real quick? Before we go, we're wrapping this up, is how I swim after watching the Olympics.
Oh, yeah. I showed you that video. The guy walks into his pool.
Stretches.
I think the only thing that would have made it better is if he just bombed in the pool rather than a dive. Just jump right in. But the last thing I want to say on Winslow is that I looked through his checklist of players that could potentially break out. Has he got the NBA-ready body, as you like to mention? Definitely.
Thick boy.
Has he got the ability to focus not so much so on his own ability to like potentially score, which a lot of the time people in the NBA look at. That's why I think that someone like Buddy Hield might struggle this year because he can be a scorer. But he likes to work both ends of the field. He's a defensive specialist, as you mentioned, likes to cover for his teammates if perhaps they lose the ball in transition. So that all goes along with attitude. And I think he's got a phenomenal
work
attitude.
ethic, yeah.
I think his work ethic is perfect. I remember watching in person, as I mentioned, Dwayne Wade getting on to someone like Hassan Whiteside and try to encourage him to consistently perform at that level that you have to be at the NBA. Never once did he even look Justice Winslow's way, because he understood this guy knows what it takes to survive in the NBA. He knows what it takes to thrive. And I think those are the two things. You want to be the physicality of the game. The talent obviously goes along with that, but the work ethic. And I think he's got the perfect work ethic. Shut up.
Best way to describe Justice Winslow: someone you will never draft in a fantasy basketball league, but is an instrumental part to winning championships down the road if the development is consistent, like it should be, especially on the defensive end of the floor. Comment below. Who else do you think potentially could break out? Do you agree? For me, it's Booker, Turner, and Winslow. For those, I know a lot of people have Russell Hezonja's on that list as well, and he's definitely a candidate that could break out. So make sure to check out the full list from CBS Sports. I will leave it in the comment section below or somewhere. I usually leave it in the description box below. Let me know your thoughts at Friends_Maxwell, at JasonRuben91, and we'll see you next time.